Have we reached peak woke? One reason that's being asked is there's a Wall Street Journal article that shows the mentions of environmental diversity and social initiatives during earnings calls. You know, like every quarter, these giant companies that are on the stock market, these publicly traded companies, they have to have earnings calls and be transparent with some of the numbers. And they found that those mentions have declined significantly over the last few quarters. So let's ask Scott Baradell about this. He's been on the James Show before, and he's a good mind to tap on these marketing issues. Have we reached peak woke, Scott?
Well, I wouldn't go out on a limb and say we've reached peak woke, but I definitely think it's at more of an ebb right now. I think that these things tend to ebb and flow, and you're right. Corporations are not focused as much on DEI. That's been documented. Corporations, I'll give you a great example. We just had the Major League Baseball All-Star Game in Texas.
Right.
The commissioner was asked, hey, Texas, they're the only stadium that doesn't have a gay pride event. And should they be allowed to have the All-Star Game? Because guess what? It was just a few years ago when the Major League Baseball pulled the All-Star Game from Atlanta because of legislation passed about voting. And this is the kind of thing that is very emblematic of what's changed, because the commissioner said, no, things like having a pride night is one of many factors we consider. And I think that's what's changed is you could say things are being put in a broader context. You could say if you don't think there's enough attention being paid to these issues now that they're being brushed under the rug. I guess it all comes down to your perspective, but it's definitely changed. Well,
I see Bud Light hasn't gone out of business. Did they ever recover from their brush with the mob?
Well, I wouldn't say they've recovered. In fact, they're not the top-selling beer anymore. They're not even the top-selling Anheuser-Busch beer. Michelob Ultra has passed them up, and the gap between the two is increasing. I think that Bud Light did the last thing you want to do, which was they tried to be everything to everybody. They kind of apologized, but they didn't really want to apologize, and then they threw everything against the wall to see what would stick in terms of their messaging after that, which made them feel like they were just trying to say what would make people happy than what they actually believed, or if they actually had beliefs.
Well, a lot of people that listen to WBAP are business owners themselves, or they're in a position in their business to sort of control the marketing angle. What would you tell them if they were thinking, maybe I will put a Trump flag out, maybe that'll be good for business? So what do you think about businesses deciding to be political?
Well, I think it's always risky. I think there's a difference between having values and being political. You can support the environment without being vocal about climate change. You can support diversity in your workplace and really value that without throwing around terms like DEI, which have become so loaded. You can have conservative values without supporting a political candidate in a public way. I think what the data shows time and again, and that hasn't changed, is that consumers don't particularly want their brands to be political, but they do want their brands to have values. And you can have values. You can support sustainability without being Greenpeace. There are ways to have values without stepping on hot buttons that are going to turn off a section of your customer base.
I find that so curious because I don't have that gene. I don't boycott anything, and one of the reasons why it seems so counterintuitive to me is because this gas I put in my car, some of that came from a country where they throw gay people off roofs. So apparently I am not sticking to my values where I put my dollars at all times. It's just these little, it's almost like a trend. It's almost like something cool. Oh, well, I'm boycotting this brand because I'm a good person. It seems more of a virtue signal than a principle.
Yeah, and also very symbolic. To your point, for years there's been this discussion of when it comes to cars or something else. Hey, buy American. Well, guess where all the parts of that quote unquote American product came from? I mean, it's the way things are made and the way things are consumed and the way things are marketed. It's very hard to isolate something like that in a way that where you can say, oh, everything about this product aligns with what I think and what I feel. It's usually a lot more complicated than that.
All right, Scott, tell them what y'all do down at Idea Grove.
Well, we help companies with branding and marketing and PR.
It's that simple. IdeaGrove.com. Thank you very much, Scott.
Thank you.